Okay, here's a video on multiplication tables with ratios, tape diagrams, and double number lines. Alright, this is not a hashtag, it's the number line symbol. Okay, so we're familiar with multiplication tables. You probably use them in 3rd and 4th grade, maybe 2nd grade. So as you can see, we have the columns going down and the rows going across. So 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 2 is 2, and so forth. So you can just multiply. 2 times 2 is 4, and we know this, right? So this is just a table of multiplication with the products, right? 3 times 4, and you follow the line, you get 12. So on. So you can use the multiplication table to make, this is an input-output box. Input, output. It's also called an X and Y box. The X is always on top, and the Y is on the bottom. Now, this is horizontal. It could also be vertical. You can also see it like this sometimes. The input outputs, and the X is always on the left. So if you saw 2 and 3, and you want to fill in the rest of the numbers here, well, just look at the multiplication table. So we're going to look at the rows with 2 and 3. And they're right here. Everything's here. We have a 4 and a 6, 6 and a 9, an 8 and a 12. So we have a 4 and a 6, and a 6, and just keep following it. 6 and a 9, and you can see it's going up by 2 each time on top, and it's going up 3 each time on the bottom. Okay? And so we have our input-output box using the multiplication table, just following the rows of 2 and 3. Okay, so you can make your multiplication table as big as you want. Right, here we have all the way up to 7. But use your multiplication table. You can go backwards on the video if you want. And fill in the 2 and the 5. So again, this is the X, that's the Y. So again, what we're looking for here is equivalent ratios. All of these will be equivalent ratios. And if you look at a multiplication table, for the 2 and the 5, there they are, straight across. You don't have to begin at the 1. You can start at the next number. So here we have 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. You can add another. And you know it's just going up by 2. And you know the 5 is going up by 5. So here we have equivalent ratios. And why is 4/10 equivalent to 2/5? Well, if you divide by 2 on the bottom and on top, you get 2/5. So you can divide by the same number, you can multiply by the same number, you get equivalent ratios. So you can get equivalent ratios using the multiplication table. Just look at the rows. Here's 2 and a 5. So, for example, what if we had a 3 and a 4? Of course, you don't need to use the multiplication tables. You're just adding 3 each time. If you add 3 each time, right, we have 6. 4 each time, 8. 3 each time, 9. 12, 15, 18. And then 4 each time, 12, 16, 20. And what would be this one? 24. Right? All equivalent ratios. Okay, now we're going to look at double number lines. So remember, double number lines, just double number line. They're double lines with numbers on them. Let's fix that. If you see the ratio 12 to 28, let's put that on top. When you're making a double number line, you want to first make the lowest ratio possible. 12 over 28 is not the lowest ratio. So what do you think is, in lowest terms, 12 over 28? Well, the lowest ratio would be 3 over 7. So you always want to get the lowest ratio when you start your double number line. Okay? Now somewhere on this line there would be a 12 and there would be a 28. So what do you think, what other numbers do you think you can put here? Well, how did we get 12 with the 3? We times it by 4. How did we get 28? We times it by 4, the same number. So if we did 3 times 2, we would get 6. And 7 times 2, we would get 14. And if we did 3 times 3, we would get 9. And 7 times 3, we would get 21. So there's our equivalent ratios, and you can just keep going. So remember, when you make a double number line with a ratio, get the lowest ratio first, 3 over 7. So make a double number line with 40 over 12. And then we'll talk about what it means to find the rule. Okay, so let's make our double number line. So first thing we have to do is what? Find the lowest ratio. It's not 40 over 12. So what is the lowest ratio? So the lowest ratio is 10 over 3. So the top number is actually bigger this time. So if we times by 2, we can get 20 over 6. If we times by 3, we'll get 30 over 9. If we times by 4, we'll get 40 over 12. There we go. There's our double number line. So now if I put any number in here, let's say I put a 15. We should be able to get what this number is up here if we know the rule. Now, to find the rule, here it is, 10 over 3. That's the rule. What does it mean? It means you can either multiply and divide to get the missing number. So let's go back to this question. Let me give you an easier one first. So let's say you had 12 over 2. And here we can see if we divide the top number, let's say the top number is x, if we divide that by 2, by 6, that is. If you divide this by 6, you'll get 2. 12 divided by 6, is that 2? Yes, 12 divided by 6 is 2. So we can, the rule here so far is if we divide the top number by 6, we'll get the y. If we multiply the bottom number by 6, we'll get the x. So I'll put in a few numbers here and tell me if the rule works. So what if we just had 3 and 4? What would these numbers be based on the rule? Remember I said if you divide 6, but top number by 6, you'll get the y. But if you multiply the bottom number by 6, you'll get the x. So what's 6 times 3? 18. 18 divided by 6? 3. 6 times 4? 24. 24 divided by 6? 4. So the rule here is multiply the bottom number, we'll say the bottom number, y, multiply y by 6. Or we can say divide x by 6. That's the rule. Let's go here. What is the rule here? In other words, if I take the top number, how am I getting the bottom number? With multiplication and division. So if we go back here again, if we find the lowest ratio, that tells you the rule. 12 over 2 is not the lowest ratio. The lowest ratio, I'll bring this over, the lowest ratio is 6 over 1. See? So the lowest ratio tells you the rule. 6 over 1 is 6. So what about 6? Divide the top by 6, multiply the bottom by 6. That's what the rule is. So let's go back here. The rule is 10 over 3. That's the rule. So what do we do with that rule? So let's say you had the top number 10. we'll put it over here, 10. And we did 10 divided by 10 over 3. That should give us what the y is. What do we do with division? We flip it. So it'll be 10 over 1 times 3 over 10. The 10's cancel and you get 3. There's our answer. Let's see if 10 over 3 works with the rest. So let's say 20. We know we need to get 6. 20 over 1, always put the integer over 1, divided by 10 over 3. 20 over 1 times 3 over 10. 10 goes into 20 twice. 10 goes into 10 once, and you get 6. There's our number. So now, if you know the rule is 10 over 3, I can give you any number, and you'll be able to get the x or the y. So I gave you a 15 here. So what do we do with that 15? We have to times 10 over 3. Why times? Because, remember, we divided from the x to the y. We have to multiply. We have to do the opposite operation, multiplication. So if we multiply this, well, 3 goes into 15 5 times, so we'll get 50. So if we put 15 down, we should have 50. Let's use the same rule, 10 over 3. And what if I gave you, we'll extend the line, so let's extend the line. Let's say I gave you, on the x line, I gave you the number 120. What would the y be? Again, you know the rule. It's 10 over 3. The lowest ratio is the rule. We want to find the y, so we have 120 divided by what? 10 over 3. What do we do next? We flip the last fraction, so it's 120 divided by 3 over 10. Now what? Let's make that division better. So 10 goes into 120 12 times, 10 goes into 10 once, and you're left with 36. So if x is 120, way over here, if x is 120, we know y has to be 36. So, again, when you're looking for the rule, look for the lowest ratio. Let me give you one more example. Okay, so what if I gave you this? So here we have two missing numbers on the y. This is the x, that's the y. First thing you need to do is find the rule. And to find the rule, you need what? The lowest ratio in lowest terms. So you have to put 18 over 12 in lowest terms. And what do you get? The lowest ratio is 3 over 2. That's the lowest ratio. So let's see if it works. If we had 18, we need to get 12. So we do 18 divided by 3 over 2, which equals 18 over 1 times 2 over 3. 3 goes in this 18 6 times, 3 goes in the 3 once, and you get 12. We'll do the same with the others. Remember, with the x we divide, with the y we multiply. Just to show you that, if we had the 12, we'll get it times 3 over 2. 2 goes into 12 6 times. 6 times 3 is 18. There's that 18. So see if you can get what these two missing numbers are, knowing the rule with 27 and 36. See what you got. Okay, so with 27, it's the x, so we're going to divide 3 over 2, which becomes 27 over 1 times 2 over 3. Oops, all right. So 3 goes into 27 9 times, and we'll get 9 times 2, 18. So the missing number for 27 should be 18. What about 36? Same way, 36 over 1 divided by 3 over 2 is 36 over 1 times 2/3. 3 goes into 36, how many times? 12 times. 3 goes into 3 once, and you get 24. So if we had 36, it'll be 24. So no matter what number I give you, if you know the rule, you can get what x or y is. Now sometimes you can find the rule very easily. If I gave you something like that, well, 15 divided by 5 is 3. And we know the lowest ratio of 15 over 3 is 5/1. So that's pretty easy. Okay, so we went over multiplication tables to get equivalent ratios. And we found how to get, with a double number line, how to get the rule. Great job.